As President of the United States, I will always put America first.
The US president gave what some might say is a classic Donald Trump performance, repeating the themes that got him elected. But in stark terms, he singled out what he called the wicked few nations and gave stark warning to the leader of the DPRK, Kim Jong-un.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
But in his speech, there was an apparent contradiction. While calling the world to unite against the Pyongyang program of nuclear and missile testing, he chastised the international community for coming together over preventing a nuclear-armed Iran.
The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided trends the United States has ever entered into. Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States, and I don't think you've heard the last of it, believe me.
So some question now whether the US policy is to unite with the unity when it suits Washington's Republicans along likes. For an answer, I turn to Jonathan Wachtel, who until recently was the spokesman here at the UN for the United States.
Look, the interpretation by critics of the administration has been America first is this arrogant, single-minded thing, and it's just about America being first, and the rest of the world can go jump in a lake. The truth is the United States is fully engaged. The United States will always be fully engaged in the international sphere.
But the Trump speech did not spell out what sort of engagement to expect from the US administration. Instead, it was a robust defense of national sovereignty, not international cooperation. And while Donald Trump said that he believed in the potential of the United Nations, although the investment, he said, had been disappointing for the United States, it looks like the US is ready to rip up international agreements, whether it be the Paris Climate Accord, which he did not mention in his speech, or the Iran nuclear deal. And guess they're also downgrading on diplomacy itself here, Mike. I can tell you that the team the US has brought here to the UN this week is one of the smallest we've seen in a generation. And as you know, they're cutting billions from the US State Department budget. That means less diplomacy and less diplomats. It looks like America first. It's not just words anymore. It's reality.
Well, let's dig a little deeper into what you were talking about. Trump mentioning Iran, called this deal an embarrassment. What can we expect to happen with the nuclear deal with Iran?
Well, as you know, every 3 months, the US has to certify that the Iran deal is working. And so far, Donald Trump as president has done that twice, but he has not hid the fact that he doesn't like doing it. The problem is for the US is that every country involved in the deal, that's the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, including China, plus Germany, have said Iran's doing fine. Iran is complying to the nuclear deal. Iran itself has said, we're sticking by the deal. So what happens if the US pulls out? Now, they've made some noises that Iran is not complying in the spirit, but they're talking largely about ballistic missile technology or its spread of influence across the greater Middle East, not the narrow parameters of the nuclear deal. If the US pulls out, does that give Tehran an excuse to abrogate? They say they're not going to. But what sort of message does this send to DPRK if they finally sat down with the Americans and inked a deal? Can they believe that the Americans would stand by their word? This is the question that diplomats are asking here tonight.
Yeah, it's an important question. Nathan King, live for us at the United Nations.